Welcome, everyone. We're so glad that you have joined us today for an information session about the summer 2026 program to South Korea. I am really tickled with this program and so glad you've decided to learn more today. We have about an hour together today. And the things that we will talk about during our time is first, introductions. The team that is here, we will introduce ourselves. Second, we will give you an overview of the program, from the academics to the co-curriculars to housing even. Then third, we will talk about cost and scholarships, financial aid. Fourth, we'll talk about the application admissions process. Preview, it's a two-step process. And then lastly, we'll have dedicated time for question and answers. We are a small group here, but we have a lot of good things to talk to you about today. So while you can type your questions throughout the presentation, please know we probably won't get to them until the end. And so we ask you really go ahead and save your questions. We might answer them as we go, and then we can chat more at the end. But now for introductions. Something that you've seen on our website and on our posters, our emails, is this long acronym, WCCCSA. What is that? That's WICSA. That's the Washington State Community College Consortium for Study Abroad, WICSA. It is the group of us community college members that have come together to make these programs available to you. There are so many benefits that you get to have by enrolling in a WICSA program, from being enrolled at your home institution, getting connected with other Washingtonians, and one, having affordable programs. So it's a really great organization that gives you these opportunities. It also means it's a lot of different people from different colleges. So I'm Andy Ingram Eccles. I am the WICSA campus coordinator from Lower Columbia College, and I am the program lead for this 2026 program to South Korea. I am joined on the call today by two colleagues who are elder WICSA campus coordinators, and I will invite them to introduce themselves, Andres and then Sancha.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andres. I'm the Green River College Study Abroad Coordinator. I'm part of this team. I'm also the Japan lead. And yeah, happy to be here and support this presentation and learn about this exciting opportunity. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's so great to see many of you here. My name is Sancha Alvaro Harrison. I'm representing the Seattle colleges, North Seattle College, Seattle Central College, and South Seattle College. Looking forward to your questions. And it looks like our chair for WICSA, Lee, is also here. So if you wanted to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Sandra and Andy and Andres. Great to see you here today. And to other students, and you're in for a treat. And we've been working on this info session uh, quite a while, and we're verifying details, and we're eager to tell you all about that. I'll briefly introduce myself. My name is Lee. I'm Communication Studies faculty member from Bellevue College. I chair the consortium this year, and I'm also the treasurer. I will turn the floor back to Andy, but I'm very happy to see all of you here today.
Thank you, Lee. Now, students, this is a good time for you to type in the chat if you're able. Tell us your name and your home college. That allows us to either connect and say, oh, yeah, we're from the same college. Or it helps us connect with your campus coordinator to say, hey, your student showed up today. We're very excited to learn about them. So you're invited to type in your chat to give us a little greeting. But while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and transition and give you a program overview. This program is in partnership with Sogang University. Sogang University is a top quality private university located in the heart of Seoul at a beautiful location right near the river. I've seen a lot of maps, not been there personally, but it's a really great location. And we have this partnership with Sogang through the kindness of Green River College. They've had this partnership with this university for several years. And actually, a Green River College executive leader lived in Seoul for over a decade. And so had a lot of strong connections that allowed us to give you this partnership and this opportunity for you to study. Now, for you specifically, it's for 4 weeks this summer. These dates are confirmed from June 26 through July 24 of 2026. For additional context, June 26 is the day you need to report to campus, check into the dormitory or the off-campus housing. And the very next day, June 27th, is orientation. You're getting on a bus, you're going to see the city, connect with your buddies. It's really comprehensive and a full experience for you. So you have these 4 weeks to be fully immersed in South Korea life and culture. Now, Sogang University has been offering these summer sessions for some time, and to help students who maybe have some uncertainties of never been to Korea before, never been outside the US before, they have this really great video. This video shows you what orientation looks like, what the neighborhood looks like. It shows you the diversity of international students are there, why students chose the program, what their favorite parts were. I won't share the video with you today because it's long, it's great, but I highly recommend that you watch it after our conversation today. We'll drop the link below shortly. I've seen the video many times, but it still gets me excited every time. It's a well-rounded program that you get to experience. Let's talk about the academics, the study part of study abroad. You have the option to take either one class or two class. Now, for context, you would take one class at Sogan and enroll in 5 credits at your home institution, or you can choose to take 2 classes at Sogang and enroll in 10 credits at your home institution. Sogang University offers a lot of courses to choose from during their summer program, from history to business to economics, from culture and dance, a lot of good choices. Your home college may not offer credit for all of those, so you want to check with your home campus coordinator to see what's available. On the screen, we have a few example courses. These are some of the courses that are approved at Green River College. So while Green River College students can take Korean history, Lower Columbia College students can. Lower Columbia College students can get credit for that microeconomics. So take a look at the course list and chat with your home campus coordinator. Another key asterisk that we have here is the Korean language course. The Korean language course for credit is only available from Pierce College and Shoreline College. So say if you're from Spokane or if you're from Clark, but you want to enroll in Korean language, then we'll help you navigate the enrollment process with Pierce or Shoreline when that time comes. Take a look at the options, get excited, and talk about with your campus coordinator. And if it wasn't clear to you already, all of these are taught in English. No Korean language skills are required. In fact, many students that participate in this program don't have Korean language skills, so you're not alone. Before I move on to talk about the weekly schedule, I want to invite my colleagues if they have any additional comments about the classes available.
Yes, I would like to chime in. So if you're still on the edge of looking at your classes or picking the right class for you, my advice to you is to pick like your top 3 classes that you think that you potentially like, and then as Andy said, like go to your campus coordinator and see if you can get credit for 1 or 2 of those, right? In that way, like, once you actually confirm to Sagan University the class, you know for a fact that you'll be able to get a credit for it. And that's the main thing, right? So that's like the only thing that I would like to add up to the academics portion.
Thank you, Andres. That's a really helpful suggestion. Next, I would like to preview your schedule. And so the weekly schedule is pretty consistent. Again, this is a short 4-week routine that you'll experience. And you'll start with morning classes. Your morning class block is from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Yes, that's 3 hours. Remember, it's 5 credits in 4 weeks. And don't worry, you'll get breaks. So you'll get a chance to stretch your legs, get water, use the restroom. It's not 3 hours intensive only. Then you'll get an hour lunch break. And it's highly encouraged that you try some of the local foods near campus. There's some small cafes, there's food stalls on the back gate that are highly recommended. And so we always encourage you to try the local cuisine from bibimbap, bulgogi, Korean fried chicken. And I say that as a vegetarian. It's pretty good. So give it a try and enjoy your time. And if you're taking an afternoon class, you'll come back for an afternoon class from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. And then there's some evening activities. It will change based on the day. Don't worry, Sogang will give you a complete schedule. But Sogang will provide some club activities. I saw some of the examples for this coming year. There's a Korean writing class, maybe some language and writing exposés. There's also a music club, a class club. There's a dance club, whether if you're into K-pop, hip hop, or another different kind of dance variety, there's some dancing club activities available. But another key feature about this program are your buddies. We'll talk more about that in a moment, but just know some evenings you'll have buddy activities. On Fridays, there are optional field trips that I'll talk about on the next slide. And then Saturday and Sundays are free time. So you're welcome to take a nap, catch up on sleep. Study abroad is exhilarating and exhausting, so a nap could be good. It's also a time to catch up on homework and assignments. Or if you're feeling ambitious, take a day trip to Busan or Jeju Island. Those are options as well, as it's your free time. But let's talk about those field trips. So Sogong offers field trips every Friday. These are optional add-ons that you can choose, and I recommend that you do. Sogong has facilitated a wide variety of opportunities. For example, in week 1, there's a visit to the demilitarization zone between North Korea and South Korea, and a visit to the Korean Workers' Party. So if you're someone really interested in history and the contextual side of Korea, this is a great weekend excursion for you. In week 2, you're going to go see more of the high tech, the international side of Korea with Sugjoko Central Market and Expo. And yes, I need to be corrected on my pronunciation there. And then week 3, you get to go see this observatory, one of the oldest in Korea from, I believe it's the 1800s, and see a temple. And then the last is actually an amusement park. So if you like the history side, if you like the more global economic, or you want to do something fun and do an amusement park, there's a little bit of everything. Again, we'll send you this information, but the field trips, additional information's on their website. There's always a small chance that these specific activities might change when the time comes in June and July, but Sogon will help you through that and choose an activity that works best for your cohort. I want to come back to that idea about the buddies. When you're studying abroad, one of the things that you look for and can be challenging is meeting locals. But Sogong facilitates that with the buddy system, connecting you with local Korean students who can help be your guide and friend to navigating Seoul. And so some of the buddy activities are structured, facilitated. We're going to get on this Seoul city tour bus and go see some cool things. It can be more casual of, let's go try some Korean barbecue and grab a beer if you're of age in the country. And so it's a great way to connect with someone local, have rich dialogue and conversation. You might go to more formal places like Namsan Tower, or on your screen you see a picture of when the cohort went to a Korean spa. Again, a very cultural experience. So there's a lot of things that you'll get to do through the buddy program. Again, I'm going to pause and invite my colleagues. Do you have other comments about the co-curricular activities of field trips, clubs, or activities?
Not really. It's just like I really want to go to. It seems really amazing to just go to this field trips. Especially, like I'm a big like history and culture guy, so the DMC and learn about the Korean War and observe like points of North Korea and the military like facilities that they have there. Like that's pretty cool to me. And then also big foodie, right? So in that week 2 activity, the field trip in Sukcho, there is a lots of like Korean street food, right? Vendors, and that's something that I mean, it's amazing, right? Like and basically very cheap for our students as well, and with fantastic quality. So other than that, I think you pretty much cover everything. And I've been also putting the links on the chat of the things that you've been going over, so to let the students know.
Yeah, and really quickly, I was in South Korea last June for 3 weeks, and the DMZ, I visited the DMZ, and it was probably one of the biggest highlights during my visit. Just them letting us know that they used to play K-pop music at the border right next to North Korea as sort of propaganda, and North Korea was sort of doing the same thing. They stopped doing that since, but sort of like the back and forth between North and South Korea is so interesting. So highly recommend. And the food is amazing. It's and K-beauty, there's like all those things around, and it's a really great area to be in.
Thank you for those additions. Now we're going to pivot and talk about housing. So for this year, you have two choices. So your first choice is on-campus housing, and it's the on-campus dorm that many of the program participants will be a part of. This is a shared environment, so you will have one other roommate with you, which is very common even here in the US. When you have on-campus dorms, you're living with a roommate, but thankfully you're in a private bathroom that you share together. So this is a choice again of many program participants, but it is first come, first serve. So we encourage you to apply as soon as you can. Once on-campus housing is filled, that will be removed from the application, so you won't see that. But this is one option that you have. The picture that you see here is just below the dormitory. So you see there's some cafes and little shops. Again, very convenient way to go to class, take a break, and come enjoy the local area. The off-campus housing option that you have is actually a newer facility located about 25 minutes away from the Sogang campus, which that's a shorter commute than I have now, maybe some of you, so that that travel on public transportation doesn't intimidate you. And trust me, public transportation in Seoul is much better than anywhere in Washington State. I'm not afraid to make that claim. With this off-campus housing option, there is an option for a single bedroom for you by yourself or sharing with a roommate. There's options for you to have a private restroom for you or your roommate, or even the more traditional sense of everyone on the hall has a communal restroom. So this is an option as well. Off-campus housing is a little bit cheaper, and we'll walk through what that looks like in a moment when we go over the financials, which is why we've provided you a range for the program fee between if you take one class or two class, if you're on campus or off campus for your housing. So this is some information about your two housing options. But all of this is included through Sogang. And team, do we have any other comments about housing or location before we transition to talk about cost?
Not sure if you mentioned it, but the on campus location is called Gonzaga Hall, right? And then yeah, it's obviously it's more convenient because it's right there.
Mhm.
But learning about the new off-campus facility is like really nice. Like it's actually even newer than Gonzaga Hall. So great options there. I'll just say that. And well, you probably mentioned that like in the Gonzaga Hall, which there's a picture right there, right? Right next to it, and sorry, right behind it, there is something that is called the back gate. And there is so many like places where you can get like, great food and, shop around for your basic, necessities. And I don't know if you mentioned it before, where Sogan is located and the Gonzaga Hall is located, they're actually is very active, right? They're in the vicinity. There are other universities, so you're gonna see a lot of like young people over that area. That's it.
Yeah. And one last thing for me, so I actually got to visit Sogang when I was in South Korea. And it's for those who live in Seattle, it's not a huge issue with hills, but this campus actually there are some hills on this campus. And so just to keep that in mind if hills aren't something that you're used to.
I appreciate those additions. And I recall, last year when we were talking to future students about this program, I will call Andres, your colleague, Paul, the person who lived in South Korea, lived in Seoul for 10 years. He spoke highly of the back gate and a lot of great food options. And not only was the food delicious, but very reasonable. You know, the food itself was a low price point, really great for our students' budgets. But also right now, as many of you may know, the US dollar is higher than the Korean won. So your dollar will go further, which is a great segue for us to talk about cost. So I'll click through these slides that we just saw earlier and talk about cost. So when it comes to study abroad, there are three components to your expenses. The first is your program fee. The second is your home campus tuition. And the third is your out-of-pocket and travel expenses. So let's dive into that first category of program fee. Now, the program fee, by any program you look at will vary. But for this program specifically, the program fee includes orientation. You'll have a pre-departure orientation here in Washington State, and then you'll have another orientation upon arrival at Sogang. This program fee involves elements of the classes that you will take locally, those weekly activities and that buddy program that we talked about earlier, that housing, the on-campus and off-campus housing that's bundled into this as well. Those weekend field trips, those are an additional add-on, but when you look at your itemized bill, it's part of the program fee. There's also a small WICSA administrative fee, and that's to help give us the opportunity to build these relationships and give you discounts on programs such as these. So this is what the program fee has to includes. And so the number that you're looking for, it's about $2,000, between $2,430 and $2,930. Now, these are estimates. These are estimates based on current conversions between the USD, US dollar, and the Korean won. These are estimates ranging because, again, if you choose one class or two classes, if you choose on campus or off campus, this program fee does include a 20% discount because of our relationship that we have with Sogang University. The program fee will be paid, you will pay that directly to Sogang in Korean won. So the exchange rate between when we made this budget and when you actually pay in June might shift a little, and you might pay a small wire fee transaction. In a moment, I'll give you a full breakdown of all three categories. But this is what the program fee, that's category one. Category two is your home college tuition. Again, if you take one class of 5 credits or 2 classes of 10 credits. This fee varies across the different colleges. It varies based on if you're a Washington State resident or you're out-of-state resident. So these may shift a little. That's why they're averages or estimates. You will pay your tuition directly to your home college. And this is one of the key benefits about WICSA programs is because you're enrolled in your home college, you get to keep that Washington rate fee. If you're using financial aid or you have scholarships flowing into your college tuition, those typically get to remain in place. Talk to your campus coordinator to confirm, but that's typically the average and one of the key benefits of choosing to do a program with WICSA. That's the second cost. The third cost is out-of-pocket and travel. So that would include airfare. You know, we give an estimate of about 1,400 for a round trip between Seattle and Incheon or Seattle and Seoul. You might choose about $500 to set aside for your meals. There's no campus cafeteria. Meals are not provided, which is why we've talked a lot about all of the great local food options nearby. And that is an estimate. Some of you might want to choose to go to a really fancy restaurant every Friday to treat yourself. Some of you might like the local food stalls or the local conveni, and that's fine too. It's your preference. Sogang University does require that you have proof of medical insurance as a just in case anything happens while you're in country. We estimate that to be about $80. You might want to also pocket about $100 for personal expenses. This could include if you don't yet have a passport and you need to get a passport, if you want to get a SIM card so you can have a local Korean phone number to get the reward points or KakaoTalk or anything else. So this is our estimate for your out-of-pocket and travel expenses. These numbers are not the only time you'll see them. If you've been to our website, you know we provided you a student budget worksheet, and it looks like what you see on your screen, where we have itemized and put this all out in our estimates of both Korean won and US dollar. These will vary based on your unique circumstance and also your preference. If you want to fly first class or you have a discount because a relative is a pilot, yours will change slightly. Later on, we'll talk about the actual deadlines of when you need to pay the program fee to Sogang University. You'll pay your college tuition based on what's the deadline at your college. But before we move on to talk about the admissions and application process, I want to pause and let Andres or Sancha comment on cost. Oh, I will talk about scholarships in a moment, but maybe let me, apologies. Let me talk about that next, because I imagine that's a key question students are having. Is scholarship and funding resources. So first, when you apply to WIXA, there is a WIXA summer scholarship. So one student in this program will receive a $500 scholarship towards their program fee. And the way to go about that is you simply apply through WIXA and check yes, you want to be considered. No additional essays, no additional documents. It's just folded into the WIXA application process. Earlier, I mentioned financial aid. You'll want to work with your home campus to confirm that, say, if you're taking a business class that meets your degree requirements and your federal or state financial aid can go towards those tuition dollars. Some students will also adjust their cost of attendance for financial aid. So when you're studying abroad, your cost is higher, and thus you can get more federal or state dollars to help cover for that. But of course, study abroad is very popular. And so there are external and third-party scholarship opportunities, either based on your academic discipline, your destination, maybe an identity or an affiliation that you have. Maybe even your home campus, there's a foundation scholarship you can apply for. Explore all your options. This is all great for you to invest in a very memorable and transformative summer that you're going to have. So explore all your options, plan early, and again, chat with your campus coordinator. Now I'll ask my colleagues if there are any other comments about cost or funding resources.
I don't have any more, like we pretty much cover everything, Andy.
Okay. Now I will pass the mic over to Sancha to walk us through the application process. And you can just cue me and I'll click the slides for you.
Sure, thank you. All right, the application process we're going to go over. So we have the WIXA application process, what we do for each campus, and then also what the application process for Sogang looks like. So next slide. All right, so let's see. Are you eligible, firstly, to study abroad? So we welcome all student types, which means uh, students who are U.S. citizens, non-U.S. citizens, even F1 students are eligible to apply. You must be 18 years old by June 26th of this year. And you must have earned 12 plus college level credits. This means, it doesn't need to be credits from the college where you are currently located. So let's say you went to Bellevue College first, and this is your first quarter at Shoreline. You just need to show your campus coordinator proof that you completed college level credits at the previous college you attended. And you need to have a 2.5 or higher cumulative GPA. Next slide. So to apply, you must apply by May 1st. That is the application due date, and you apply online on our website. And so you have the essay portion, which is 4 questions, and your essay is also your scholarship application. So Andy mentioned that one of you might be the recipient of the $500 scholarship. We use your essay responses for your scholarship application. So we highly recommend that you have someone read your essays before you submit it. And just a quick tip, answer the questions fully. Make sure that you're actually answering the questions. And so if I think one of the questions is asking about your academic and professional goals, don't just give us your academic goals, give us your academic and professional goals. So that's what I mean when I say answer the questions fully to answering all the parts of the questions as well. We need to contact information for 2 references. And so first of all, make sure that you let these references know that you are applying. But also, one needs to be an academic reference, and so that's like a instructor from one of your classes, someone who can really speak about your academic performance. And if you could also have someone from your high school previous teacher. And then the second reference can also be another academic reference, another instructor, but it can also be an advisor, a mentor, a coach, an employer, someone that can still speak to your maybe your professional achievements, and or your academic achievements as well. Just know it cannot be a personal reference, so we cannot accept references from a family member or a friend. Again, just ask them ahead of time and let them know that they will or that you want them to be a reference. And so when we receive these contact informations for these two references, they will need to fill out a form. So it's not a letter of recommendation. It's a form that we have them fill out, and they will receive a link via the email that you provide. So please make sure the email is correct in your application. You will also need to upload your unofficial transcript. And if you don't know how to do that, please ask your campus coordinator, but you should be able to find it in your CTC link in your academic section. And there's like a drop-down menu to look at your unofficial transcript. And then you so some campuses do this differently. Some campuses allow you to apply first and then you do this interview with them, or some campuses do the interview first before you apply. So that's completely up to how your campus does it. But as part of your application process, you have to complete what we call a preliminary interview. And it's for Seattle colleges at least, it's a chat with us just to make sure you know the realities of study abroad. We ask questions about how you handle stress and how do you handle roommates and all of that. So don't be nervous about it. It's a very casual conversation. We just want to know your goals and how you might be able to navigate new environments, especially going to a new country. Um, let's see. And let's go to the next slide, see if I'm about to say if it's on here. Um, okay, so once you receive, well, let me go back a little bit. So once we receive all of your application materials, by we as in your campus coordinators, that includes completing your application and your references are, we've received them. Your campus coordinator will take a look at your application, including the interview that they did with you. And if you making sure that you meet our eligibility requirements with your GPA, et cetera. And if all looks good, you will receive a preliminary acceptance from your campus coordinator, so from WICSA, and then you will receive instructions on how to register with SOGONG. And the SOGONG registration includes selecting your housing preference. So if you haven't thought about it already, Andy showed, what options you have. See what you might want to do. Next slide. So to enroll, again, we will send this information on how to apply for to SOGONG University. And when you apply, it's really to generate your student account. And so we also recommend that you pay the SOGONG fees within 2 weeks. And so you should, in your financial planning, you should try to be ready with paying that program fee. But just keep in mind that the final payment due date is June 2nd. After the preliminary acceptance, again, you'll receive a thorough checklist and dates that you need to keep in mind with the application process. And as I think as it was mentioned previously, the Sogang requires medical insurance card proof. Um, and one of the things that you should also keep in mind, the one of the requirements for Sogang is that you have to take a TB test, and so they require a form to be filled out by your medical doctor or a clinic about the TB test. And again, this is required for every international student that comes to campus. Um, Also note that if you are not a U.S. citizen, there are steps that you'll need to take to acquire a visa. And again, this information will also be provided to you if this is your situation. Next slide. Some important dates. Actually, let's go back to the previous slide. Sorry. Something to note, Andy talked about how the classes are set up. Make sure that you work with your campus coordinator to find out, again, which classes are available for credit at your campus. And again, as a reminder, the Korean language class is only available if you register for it at Pierce College or Shoreline, because those are the two campuses that have the Korean language class. Okay, next date. Next slide. A few dates again to remember. Application due is May 1st. We have an admitted students webinar May 7th. The pre-departure orientation is May 16th. Location is still TBD. We want to see where most of our students are located. Otherwise, it's mostly a central location as well. And June 2nd is the final payment due date. Andy, can you specify, is that for Sogong as well? Okay, yeah. So that is the Sogong final payment deadline due date as well. All right.
Thank you, Sacha. One comment that I will add for the WICSA application process when you're putting your essays together, I really echo Sancha's advice to showcase your long-term goals as well, and also tailor it to South Korea. Tell us specifically how this program is helpful for those goals. And don't use AI. We all know. We've seen enough of these essays to know. So you can use it as a reference, but don't submit it, tailor it, and ask a friend, review it to make sure it sounds like you and not someone else. Those are my last tips for the admissions process. But now, students, we want to hear your questions. So type them in the chat. You're invited to unmute yourself and ask your questions verbally as well. I'll stop sharing my screen just so if it's easier for us to navigate our time together.
While waiting for the questions to come in, I want to quickly add that one more additional value of your application essay is that you can later update and tweak it for a lot of national level study abroad scholarships. Most likely, this will be a very good basis for your next year critical language scholarship application due first week of November. So let's say that you are admitted into this South Korea program over the summer, and then you return and you write for the critical language scholarship so that the next summer, if you receive it, you can go to Korea again and you study 4 weeks there, all expenses paid for by the US federal government.
Thank you, Lee.
And in the scholarship notes, reach out to your campus coordinator about the specific scholarships that are available in your campus because they may have different options for you. So it's not just the WICSA, right? So make sure you talk to them about it and your options, consider your options. Another thing that I wanted to say is that this program is very particular because you're gonna see like different nationalities, different people that go to this program, right? And our other weeks programs are sort of like cohort based, right? But in this case, they accept applications, and actually, I think their record is like more than 60 students at once, right? And they're from like Europe, from Australia, from New Zealand, from other parts of the US, from other parts of Asia. So you get an opportunity to engage with different cultures, which makes it unique that way.
Thank you for that, Andres. We have a few questions coming in the chat. The first here is about class. For morning and afternoon class, would that be for one class or multiple classes? The classes are offered specifically, some are in the morning and some in the afternoon. A few of the classes are repeated. So if you really were interested in, say, the K-pop class that's only offered in the morning, and you also wanted to do Korean language, you can take the afternoon Korean language class. In the chat, I sent you the link of all the Sogon classes that are available. As a reminder, Sogon offers many classes, but you need to check with your home campus coordinator to confirm which classes you can get credit for at your home institution. So we'll follow Andre's advice. Pick your top 3 classes that you're interested in, go to your campus coordinator and see what's available. Another question here in the chat is, if I meet the GPA requirement, would there be any other reasons I wouldn't be able to go? Sanja, would you like to remind us of all the eligibility requirements?
Yeah, so as a reminder, the eligibility requirements are you have to have 12 plus credits at your institution, college level credits. You need to be 18 by the time June 26 rolls around. And those are like the two main academic ones. And
To
passports by the
passport,
time,
yeah,
yeah,
that's
by
good.
the time the program starts. I mean, processing times can really vary. So if you don't already have one, we recommend applying for
Yeah.
one now. But would there be any other reason I wouldn't be able to go? I mean, so as I mentioned, that we take a look at your application materials, and if we are an open access institution, so we don't unless there's really anything, any red flags or anything like that, we most of the students that at least at Seattle colleges are able to attend. Um, yeah, and do any of you want to add at your institutions potential barriers?
No, I think you said it is sort of the same for Green River, and I'm assuming like, many weeks at colleges. So
Yeah.
on the passport note, make sure it has like enough room, like even like 6 months after the program ends, because
Mhm.
that sometimes can be a problem when you go to a different country, right?
Mhm.
So if you see that it's gonna expire in, I don't know, Ju at the end of July, right, or
Mhm.
early August, you might not be able to actually hop into the plane. So you might want to check that to renew it or not.
Other questions?
Hi, yes, I'm from Green River, and I have a question about the uh, flight tickets. Are we to buy our own flight ticket, or will that be part of the WCCSA?
Yes, so that's a separate cost that you need to cover. I believe Andy provided an estimate of like $1,400, but it sort of depends on what you find available. And recommendation is like to check you know different websites and different options available. I know that there are several airlines that go to South Korea from Seattle specifically, like Delta, Korean Air, Asiana, even Hawaiian Airlines. I think it has a flight over there. So you have options, but yeah, that's a separate cost that you need to cover.
Okay, so I'm assuming with this, that means we're not flying together with the others participants?
No, but we typically create like a Discord that we pull the students in, like the accepted students. And in that Discord, we like students can, match their flights, or, if they find like good deals like that, then that's something that we highly encourage, right? But ultimately, it's up to you, right? We, as Andy mentioned earlier, like there is a date that you need to be there at Sogon University, which is June 26th, and it depends on you what's available, right? Actually, I remember, you made me remember, there are like also windows of or times, I guess, during that day that Sogan would actually have people available to take you to the Sogan campus, right? If you go like super early, if you arrive super early on the 26th, yeah, you might not be able to catch the ride with the other students. This is information that we will provide like after you get accepted. But yeah, that just popped into my head for some reason, and I wanted to share it. But yeah, we will give you that itinerary, suggested itinerary, and arrival windows for sure.
And then just one last question. Will this presentation be made available for us?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe tomorrow we'll be ready to go, Andy. I don't know. And then yeah, we'll publish it in the Wixa website, and potentially I'll post it as well at the Green River. I know you're Green River, so it'll be there as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Great questions. Other questions? I will say every student experience is different. There are certain things that you are going to be very excited about, looking forward to, that might be different than your classmate next to you. But I know sometimes it's helpful to hear from previous students. So in the chat, I'll link, we have a blog post from a student, a Lower Columbia student who did this program last year. And so she shared a little bit about her experience. Again, it might be different than yours, but it's always just nice to know kind of a broader picture. But what's next? So the next steps for you all is to take this good information, think about it, and then start your application. We're really going to push that because here we are, April 15th. The Wix application deadline is May 1st, and that's firm. There's going to be no extensions, unfortunately. So you have about 2 weeks to get your application into Wixa. And as you've heard from Sancha, there's an interview somewhere in there. So give yourself some buffer. Talk to your references, get your essay together, and get that application submitted. Talk to your campus coordinator to learn more about the course options available to you, particular funding availability at your campus as well, and just contact us, your campus coordinators. We're here to support you, and we're very excited for you. This is an excellent program. And this is one of the rare ones that is like this, the short-term, taught in English, affordable price. So we're very excited that you're considering investing in such an incredible, again, memorable and transformative summer. Any closing thoughts or last minute questions you want to sneak in before we say goodbye for today? No. All right. Thank you all. We look forward to being in touch soon. Until then, bye.
Thank you.